Hello, welcome to the next episode of Switched On. Thank you very much for listening in to my YouTube channel, and I'll give you a little bit of an introduction who we're going to talk to today. And he is a IFBB pro, British champion, gym owner, Mr. Olympia competitor. You're a qualified nurse as well, which I found out, mental health practitioner, and that is Mr. Eddie Abbew.
Hi, no, thanks for having me.
How you doing, Eddie? You alright?
I'm good.
Good. Eddie, thanks for coming on today. I just wanted to have a word with you about, obviously, the bodybuilding industry, sort of what got you into it initially, and then we'll move on to sort of current issues, because...
I was about 15 years old. I was at school. I was in a boarding school in Kenya, and I saw one of my teachers had weights in his garden. And I was stuck in the school during the holiday, six-week holiday, and I just stumbled upon some weights.
Yeah.
And then I just got hooked straight away.
Yeah.
And literally, by the time school reopened, my biceps had grown about 2-3 inches. And if we talk about 1981, everyone's like, oh my God, what happened? So I started charging people to make money at that age. And this is my first time I did PT.
Really?
Yeah, so then I got hooked. I saw a picture, a magazine with Sergio Oliver, and I thought, I got fascinated by it. You know, like I think most young guys go through that. I was fascinated by how you could just sort of train and eat a certain way and change your appearance and build muscle. I was interested. That's when I got hooked.
And then got hooked from there, and then...
And it's never changed. I still feel the same way as I did when I was 15 years old.
And then it went on from when you were 15 years old, just training. When did you start to compete?
Well, you know, we leave school, you go to university, go to college, and then went to study. I studied to be a nurse. I was doing law in Ghana, and then that's the intention, to be a lawyer. And then eventually I couldn't stay there because I didn't live there. So I ended up back in the UK, and then I got into nursing.
Yeah.
So I didn't train properly for a while. And then when I was a student, the home warden and the nurses' home gave me a room because the room didn't have a sink, and I put one of those old reader benches, you know,
the
home ones. I bought a few plates that you could disassemble. You know, I still got the weights here in my gym.
Really?
I kept them. Then I started training. All I did was concentration curls, dumbbell presses, and shoulder press. That was it.
It's incredible.
3 movements. And I just loved it. I just loved the training. I never did any legs at that time in those days.
But you just had the genetics, basically, and then you just started to train, and then it evolved from there.
I transformed very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. I transformed within weeks of training. People were like, oh my God, what have you been doing? My bicep had popped up.
So when was the first time you started to compete?
So when I was in my head, when I saw Sergio Oliver and I saw the magazine, I saw Miss Olympia. I thought, I want to get in the stage.
Yeah, incredible physique, I remember.
Incredible. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about in the 80s. I saw that.
Classic.
I was thinking, I want to look like that. But then I found out about Miss Olympia, and I thought one day I wanted to do it. But I never really thought, you know, it's a dream, you just keep inside you, because education takes precedent, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to make a future for a life for yourself. And then I remember I walked into a gym, and the owner of the gym saw me. The first time I walked in the gym, he said to me, what are you running? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, what are you running? What are you taking? I'm like, nothing. And that surprised him a lot. He's like, you're lying to me. I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't even realize. You know what? I used to look in magazines. I used to see people like Mike Ashley and going about being natural. And I didn't realize it was the drug use was as rife as it was. So anyway, so he said to me, no, if you want to be a pro bodybuilder, you got to take this. So can I talk openly about what I was doing?
Yeah.
So he said to me, what have you got to take? I was a student nurse at that time. He sold me 3 Satsonons and 2 Decas. So Satsonon is, you know, like a compound with other testosterone, and 2. So I was doing 250 milligrams of Deca a week and 750 milligrams of Satsonon a week. And I went from 15.5 to 19 stone in 14 weeks.
That's crazy. Solid muscle.
Absolutely. The guy was like, oh my God, what have you done? Then I knew that
you knew you had the genetics to be able to compete. So you didn't start off as did you go in the unnatural ranks? You just went straight to the...
So basically I'd been training for about 8 years before I did touch anything, because This time I was about 26, 27. I've been training naturally. I didn't realise people actually took steroids. Nobody told you then.
No, you see, I find it in the industry as well. Well, I don't compete or anything. I obviously go to the gym, and you see like average gym goers now take steroids, and it's quite common, and that's where an issue has picked up, and we'll pick up on that. That it's sort of like a stigma attached. No one talks about it. It's one of them things that in bodybuilding, obviously, because people have sponsors, people have this, they don't talk about the steroid use, do they? Because no one wants to tell them that taking steroids, take this protein supplement or something like that.
I think that's the biggest shame about steroid use, because I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that I talk about it. I know quite a few people of my generation who are suffering the long-term effects of it, but they don't want a voice.
Yeah.
They come and say it. It's not just the physical effects, the psychological effects as well. That to me, that's where I want to stress more, because nobody mentions that. I know people who finished bodybuilding and came off everything and felt suicidal. Some of them try to take their lives.
Is that because of the certain drugs you have to take when you come off testosterone? It's just because it depletes it completely, or?
Yes, it depletes you. I mean, all of us are on HRT. You have to be, because you constantly shutting down your testosterone
Natural
production. I mean, you're mucking around with your endocrine system, and that's what happens in the long run. I mean, you're taking thyroid hormones. There's so much drug use in this sport. Now, the reason why I didn't say anything in the past was because it was only a few. It wasn't, bodybuilding's a bit of a cult sport, so not many people did it, and we knew the consequences, you know. Whereas now you've got these young lads coming in, really young. They don't have a clue. They're listening to some of their peers online and taking their advice. And I'm thinking, oh, hang on, how would you know? Oh, I've done my blood tests, I'm okay. I did all my blood tests, you know, when I was competing, because I was in the nursing profession. But still, when I finished, there was something not right. You know, you can't protect yourself. That's not a guarantee that everything's going to be right. Especially your mental state. No blood test can tell you. You know, you're testing your testosterone and your hormone levels. How you're not going to.
And that regulates your mood.
Absolutely, regulates. You know, when you're on the stuff and you get that alpha male syndrome where you feel so powerful, and people get addicted to that.
Yeah.
And
it gives you that feeling.
Absolutely, it does. You know, some of the crazy things I've done when I was on.
Does it say about the sort of the accentuation of people's minds? If you're that way inclined, you're sort of an aggressive disposition, and then you take steroids, it's going to accentuate that and make you even more of a dick, because the old roid rage type, is that complete bollocks?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not. My daughter said to me, I'm actually quite mild-mannered.
Yeah.
But my oldest daughter, who's a counsellor, she said to me one day, you know, we always knew when you're on, and that really hurt. They had to adjust. My family had to adjust to me. I wasn't aggressive. I'm not an aggressive person, but you can see in my behaviour, in my demeanour, in the way I present myself, the way I deal with them, the way I handle situations, even the way I drove was different. And because we don't think that's important, nobody assesses that.
Nobody brings out the negative side of it.
No.
It's the same with a lot of. You can even correlate that to social media, sort of like the perfection of everything. They only tell you what's good, don't they? It's never the shit, because that's life. There's tons of shit.
I don't know if you know about it, but I used to prep so many people.
Yeah, I know you did. Yeah.
Like I remember one British Finals 2014 or 2015. I had about 35 competitors competing who had qualified. Like so many people, and to me, I tell you why I did that. Nobody people ask me, well, why did you prep so many people? That's not what I thought I was going to be as a gym owner when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I was doing everything. We got my gym, everything was fine, and then one of those lifestyle gyms opened, a massive big one where it's like £1.99 for a year, you know, like that.
Yeah.
They're not interested in profits. And then next minute, I lost 62% of my members because they are parking and they're charging a third of what I was charging. So I lost all of them. So I had to do, to constantly reinvent yourself. So the prepping people became what I did for my job. So I even stopped PT. I never did PT. That's what I did. And then after a while, you think, hang on, I don't want to do that anymore because you're not dealing with real people.
No.
The 2,000 people were sitting in front of me are full of steroids.
the whole process of bodybuilding, when you take them into the drug profile they take, we talk about unnatural now, and the dieting, they're coming into competition, the actual impacts that has on the body and the mental impacts. Again, I mean, you get into a position when you're coming out of competition or coming to, you're starving yourself. At the same time, you're taking a drug profile.
Yes.
And the impacts, drugs profile. And what, you know, I'll pick up on the drugs thing first, because it seems like it's more apparent now, and then you've got people that take insulin and things like that into the equation, where it seems like in the old style 80s, 90s, it was just the basic compounds people were taking. Is that true?
It's got worse. I started on the insulin because one of my coaches I worked with, he advocated insulin. To me, I found that safer because my body couldn't respond, it couldn't react. Okay, so I was in a course, I'll give you a story. I was in a course once, and one of my training partners came back from competing in the States, and then he said, "Oh, we're going to step up our game, you know, we're going to step it up, increase the androgen use." So we increased it to about a gram a week. And then I started getting these panic attacks. Now, I didn't realize these hormones were giving me the panic attacks. Literally get up in the morning and literally constant panic attacks where you feel like a caged animal to run, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving on the M1, just up, just literally, that's the only way to calm me down. Windows down. I'm thinking, went to my doctor, doctor prescribed, says you're on antidepressants, blah, blah, blah. I didn't add 2 and 2 together and realize that it was the hormones. Then one day my wife said to me, "Have you thought that maybe it's what you're taking?" And when I eased off, I was okay. So I realized that when it came to hormones or testosterone, I couldn't take much. So I had to find another way of getting bigger. And that's when the insulin came in. So,
and the top up of drugs, the way you see these guys now, I mean, like yourself, when you competed, and I remember seeing you when I was at my local gym in Cheshunt, when you was in your prime, and you was probably the biggest guy I'd ever seen. I remember as a youngster, and I
went up to 23 stone.
Yeah.
Plus.
And how do you, once you keep taking the drugs to keep you that size, how long is it once you stop taking it, then the body sort of deflates, or is it taking years? Could you see, like, you know, bodybuilders as they come off the steroids, they just drop, like, lose amount of size?
The old school way was different. I remember when I started, I was told, take the 12 weeks on, 12 weeks off.
Yeah.
That's what we did. So you had 3 months when you took the stuff, 3 months when you came off, and clean up your system, and then get back on it again. I never even did any PCT. That's what happened. But apparently now these kids come out, you know, saying stuff like, "Oh, we've been told through research." And I was like, "Well, hang on. There's not that much research that has been done with steroid abuse in bodybuilding."
Yeah.
It may be in American football where they got more money. This is almost like a marginal sport. There isn't that much research being done on the effects, the long-term effects on steroids. And the older generation, people like me, the veterans, don't tell the truth. I know so many people are suffering.
And that's damaging, isn't it? Because if you don't, everyone's different. And as you say, when you take a compound, like, everyone's going to have different reactions to it. And as you said, you had a different reaction, different mental turn on it. And I mean, what's the advice that you have now for people that take steroids in gyms that are just average gym goers?
My whole view of how this bodybuilding has gone is just a bit different from how it was, let's say 20, 25 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story. So busy, I prepped so many people, and I got to a point where I couldn't actually do the job anymore. And I'll give you an example, because as you see girls who were sitting in front of me on social media, they had this big profile, everybody's following them, and they were sitting in front of me, checking in, and I could smell the vomit on their breath, where they got eating disorders. And I'm like, hang on, shouldn't you be telling people the truth? No, these things were kept quiet. That's one example. A young lad sat in front of me. That's when I thought, I have to just cut this down. A young lad sat in front of me, and he says to me, he was getting ready for a show, and he needed some trim for glasses. So he couldn't get any. I got my guy, the guy I used to get stuff from, got it, the trim for him. So he sat in front of me, and he goes to me, "Ed, you realize can you show me how to do site injections? Okay, so why? Because I always put it in my backside and I don't want to. Okay, so I thought, come on then. So I go, needle, we drew it out, and then I put it. I was about to show him what to do. He says to me, hang on, does this contain peanut oil? And I'm like, well, what does that mean? He goes, oh, peanut oil, I'm allergic to peanuts. So, anyway, so I got on the phone and I called the guy I got it from. Didn't have a clue. He called this guy, didn't have a clue. So for about half an hour, we were sitting there looking, trying to find out if that particular oil contained peanut oil. Now, bearing in mind when we were competing, everything we took was pharmaceutical grade. We used to go to Italy and was Spain, Portugal, and buy stuff. We could buy stuff over the counter and bring them here before the EU and all that bollocks, right? So this lad sits in front of me, we couldn't find out what was in there, whatever. Then he says, do it anyway. I'm like, no. Anyway, so I didn't do it. When I went home that night, and I was talking to my wife about it, and she says to me, you do realize you could have killed him.
Yeah.
And that was it for me. And I thought, hang on, he doesn't have the genetics to get where he thinks he wants to get to. I can see that.
Yeah.
So doing it just for a bit of a hobby, that's fine. But people become so unrealistic that they think, because the drugs give you that delusional,
And they give you that sort of immediate, quick results.
Yes.
And that what becomes addictive?
And then
You're looking in there.
And then you're chasing it.
Yeah, and you can't get off the train.
These people, you know what I always say, the people who are going to win big shows in, let's say, 20 years' time, we already know them.
Yeah.
You can tell by the genetics.
Yeah.
Plays a big part. I've seen one of the girls I used to work with, and I see her competing one after another. She can be scrawny. She changes coaches, and she was scrawny. I'm thinking, give it up, girl. But they don't realize what they're doing, the long-term effects on all this crash dieting up and down all the time. And not everybody is cut out to be a bodybuilder.
No.
But because of social media influences, everybody thinks they can get to the top.
And is it, you see these big guys, I'm not having a pop at anyone because I know everyone's got to sort of make a living, and they go online and you see these adverts, and these guys are clearly taking enhancements, but they're promoting a certain powder or a certain thing to... What do you feel about that?
Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, go for it.
This young lad comes into the gym and he's holding this intro workout, doing blah blah blah, and drinking. I'm like, put the fucking thing down. I said, why? Because the person you're copying that from has taken a shitload of insulin before their training. That's why they need this drink. And he goes, really? I said, yes, find out the truth before you copy people. They don't know. Nobody really educates anybody. They think that the little bit that they're reading online or they're watching is the truth. But tell me something. If somebody is charging a lot of money to prep you, do you think they're going to put information out there for free?
No.
No.
Of course not.
Not the right information. But these kids it's all about sensationalizing, isn't it? If I go online and say, well, you know what, a dog bit a man, oh my God, no big deal. But if the man bites a dog, that's news. So people are trying to shock constantly, trying to do. There's a guy, somebody called what's his name, Boston Lloyd or something.
Boston Lloyd, yeah.
People talk about this guy and he's doing this rich piano. People are coming in trying to snort pre-workout in my gym because
he's done it.
Because he's done it, and I'm like, you know what? Are you idiots? And that's what the problem is. So bodybuilding is attracting people who shouldn't be in the sport. One, because of mental health issues. They should be training and enjoying their training, but they're training, and I was saying it all the time, a lot of people sit in front of me with clear mental health issues. I'm a psychiatric nurse, I'm trained to spot that, but I'm having to ignore that and advise them to take drugs. Yeah. I couldn't deal with that anymore. I just could not deal with that.
It's incredible, really, and it's good that you're speaking about it. And I just think, especially with social media and the sensation is an issue, it's so prominent now. Everything is just, even in the media, as obviously with COVID-19 and things like that, everything is just focused on massive negative information, and people get drawn in by that, sucked in by that actually isn't what's going on.
It makes more news. It makes better news.
Yeah.
It makes better news to come out with something. Sometimes I'm watching, even before these COVID years, you watch the news and you think, who decided that I needed to watch that?
Yeah.
Because that's rubbish.
Yeah.
You know, some
You get stuck into it.
silly story. You know?
So attaining a physique naturally, Eddie, I think the vast majority of people that go into gyms now, as you say, they look at social media and they look at these physiques and, you know, they're incredible. Obviously some are enhanced, but most are enhanced that go on social media. I was just being conservative there, but they go into the gyms and you get these guys, and you know, because obviously you're a gym owner yourself, and say, I need to train, get in there, I need to take something, I need to take steroids to be able to get big. But really, a lot of a good physique can be attained naturally. A decent physique. I'm not talking about, you know, bellies on muscles, you know, big. That's never going to happen, obviously. I mean, some people who've got genetics.
Not really.
No.
No. I mean, you look good, but then there's so many people who don't have. I mean, it's a very small percentage of people have the genetics to train and just look like, you look at them and think, you know, there's a boy came into the gym to see me yesterday, and he sat down, blah blah blah, and he got his top off. 29 years old. I said to him, have you taken anything in your life? He said, no. I said, please don't, because I have no intention on doing that. He looked incredible. But then the pressure's on him to take this stuff, it's unreal. And I said to him, so what do you want to do? I just want to look decent. Maybe you do one competition. Want to do natural competitions? Well, but that's the problem, because you know everybody's doing it. I have people come to me and you look at them and you can say, I mean, that's what I did in the past. Now I stopped it because I'm not interested. People come to me and they ask me, look, I want to compete. And they take their clothes off and you think you need at least 2 solid years of training. Like a base. Even with the gear, because they don't have anything. But then what I was doing was you get them ready, and then they win some little competition, and then they get a chip on their shoulders. I'm there, I'm this, and you can see straight away it gets in their head. Then the drug taking comes in, and then I just couldn't deal with it. No. Because what I'm saying is there are so many people who I know of my age who were put so much into bodybuilding and got out of it with nothing.
Yeah.
Because it takes over your life, it's addictive, the steroids are addictive, the bodybuilding itself is addictive. So what happens?
Yeah.
They've ended up with nothing.
It's incredible really when you think about it. I'm gonna have to just come off of that a little bit and just ask you about your career as well, because and then we'll pick up on the COVID thing and what you've actually said about the gyms and everything like that. We'll cover that, but I mean, you competed on the Olympia stage. I have to talk about that. You know what I mean? At the top level in the world with the best bodybuilders in the world, and to be able to get that's incredible. What was it? What's the feeling? What is to be able to get to the pinnacle of the sport and to compete with the best in the world?
Okay, so you always know your limitations. I knew what my limitations were. Genetically.
Yeah.
I had high calves. My calves wouldn't grow, and I did my back in for quite a young age. So in terms of heavy squats, I could never do them. The most I've ever squat is like 140 kilos. But then even then, after I've done everything else, hack squat, do any weight, leg press, the same, but I couldn't have the bar on my back properly to squat. I was aware of that, so I knew what my limitations were. And I said, from 15 years old, I wanted to get to the Sunderland stage once. People said to me, you got to go to the States. At that time, it was difficult. You got to go to the States, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it from St. Albans. And, you know, but, so my goal was to get in the stage, get the Olympian stage. But I didn't want to qualify in Europe or anywhere else. I wanted to qualify in the States, in one of the big shows. So it had to be the Arnold Classic, the Ironman at the time, the Knife Champions. One of those, it had to be one of those shows. And that's what I did, because I know it doesn't matter what you do. I don't know what it's like now, but the Americans didn't respect the fact that you won some backstreet shows in Australia or Europe. They don't care. They don't care. They don't have as much respect for them, because, and it's true though, none of the guys were in there. You know, when I qualified, I had all these, Sylvia Samuel was there, you know, people like Tony Freeman, there were Ahmed Haida, they were all on stage. And I beat them. I wanted to, I was on that day. But then it's it's one of the things that you do. And then when I qualified, when I got on the stage, I realized the Olympia is not necessarily a competition, is it?
Do you think it's more who you are, and is it quite it's quite political bodybuilding, isn't it?
Let's just say there are a few years when the people who won the Olympia, I think Flex Wheeler should have won the Olympia once. I think Sean Ray should have won the Olympia one, but that's how it is. When I did the Olympia, I mean, Jay Cutler is one of my favorite. It's actually my favorite bodybuilder, Jay Cutler. But when 2007, when I did the Olympia, I'd have given it to Victor Martinez because you couldn't take your eyes off him. He just looked incredible. But
it seemed, with bodybuilding as well, obviously I'm a fan of it, and I do watch the Olympias, well, I used to especially, and it just they become bigger and bigger and bigger. Would it become less about symmetry, because obviously it's about an art as well, and how you've got to develop this muscle and this muscle to make sure that it's all symmetric? Was it more about, did it become more of a mass freak? Because Ronnie Coleman's physique, it evolved massively, didn't it?
I've been obviously competing against.
And you've competed against him.
Where I beat him in condition, but Ronnie took it to a different level.
Yeah.
Where I was sitting next to, I'll tell you one story, Ronnie, and so we were backstage in Austria, and my tanning, you see like a dream tan and mix it with 1 cow spray. I know, it just bronzed my skin because I'm quite dark.
Yeah.
So I was backstage doing it, and Ronnie's sitting there watching me, and my time was being done, and he walks up to me and says to me, what is that? It's 2006, and I told him it's this and that and that. And so I asked him, it was before, I remember when the first time he won the Olympia in 90 whatever, his mum was in the audience, and I walked his mum down and to meet him, and he was like, thank you, and I met him at the Life Champions in New York. He came in, a big guy, we're chatting, so Ronnie was quite friendly. But he'd won a few Olympias since then. So he sat there, he asked me, so how is he? What time is that? And I showed him. And he says to me, so I asked him, so what do you use? He goes, not that. And he turned his back on me. And I'm thinking, you prick. But, I think everybody's different. And I'm thinking at that time, I thought, not that. And he walked off. But it doesn't matter.
There's no need for it though, isn't there? And that's what it does to people.
There was no need for it. I remember thinking, like, it's stuck in my mind even up to now, the feeling. I remember thinking, you don't have to be like that. But then, in saying that, I was watching him sit there. He was massive. He was so big. It was huge. Where things were hanging down off him. Whereas if he walked behind and he looked at him from behind, he looked obese. His lats were hanging down. I remember thinking, fuck. But that's somebody who was prepared to take it to a different level. I mean, everybody talks about how much you used to train, how hard you train. Nobody talks about the other bits.
Look at him now.
Nobody talks about the other bits. To be able to do that much, and I put my neck out to be able to live that much. A lot of it has to involve certain, substances.
And he used to train heavy, didn't he, Ronnie? Yeah, and now he's got a terrible back, spinal issues and stuff. And
it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, he'll still get the respect for creating. Yeah. To me, that was the most impressive in terms of sort of thickness and whatever. He was the most awesome bodybuilder I'd ever seen or competed against. Now, Flex Wheeler to me had the best physique that I'd ever seen, because Flex Wheeler, when there's a picture of that. Milos used to prep me and Flex, and Milos posted a picture recently. We were checking Flex in, and I remember looking at his squats thinking, oh my God, how can you beat that? Separation and striation was just incredible, so yeah.
But even, you were yourself a British champion, wasn't you, IFBB, and you had an exceptionally, me being a layman, but obviously you were a professional bodybuilder. I mean, you were elite level bodybuilder. It's incredible feat for yourself. Do you feel proud of that, what you've done in the sport? Because I get a feeling that you're a bit like...
No, I think the biggest, to me, obviously I chose to do bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And I'm the biggest, I suppose, regret is that it affected my children.
Right.
I mean, I look at my kids that I'm not worried about it, they're okay. But then it could have been worse, only because the reason why it wasn't, because my wife's a very strong person, she pulled them out of it. So none of my kids have actually seen me on stage before. They were not part of it because she knew about the drug use, she knew about how it would affect the kids. But I did all my duties. I was there. As a parent, I didn't want to take them to school, pick them up, did all of that. But you know, when you know how you used to reason at that time, when you're under the influence of so many of these hormones, and you think you're making rational decisions, but you're not.
And it's a very selfish sport as well, isn't it? Yes. Because you have to concentrate. You can't do things. It affects your. You can't go out shopping. You have to make sure you're resting constantly. You're training constantly. And the diet, we didn't pick up on the diet. I mean, it's so restrictive.
It used to be very stringent back in the day. Was so strict. And this is how I asked myself, right? Your kids haven't done anything. Why did they have to spend years and years and years putting up with your behavior, putting up with this? But it's not as if you're making a shitload of money. It just you have to adjust to you walk in the house. Because their temperament is not the same. You can tell the temperament is not the same. And because it happens so gradually, you don't realize that that's how you are until it came off everything completely. Like end of 2017, 2016, I thought, you know what, I'm going to just absolutely go cold turkey. So went cold turkey on everything. And it's almost like something being switched on in my head. I'm thinking, I'm looking at people and thinking, what the fuck am I doing with this? But what the fuck do you know what I mean? It got me. You realise that it's almost like because of the hormones, you end up living in a fake world.
Like a bubble, you're a different character.
Yes, you're in a bubble, and the people around you, because they're all similar, it's acceptable. Nobody judges anybody. Like the supermodels, you might think of the time when all of them were doing coke. It became a normal thing. So nobody thought there was anything wrong with it until one day someone said, "Hang on, this is killing us."
And the more and more I suppose you do it, the more addictive it becomes, and then you have to carry on with it. But so it gets to a point where you're taking the steroids, and obviously your testosterone is depleted naturally because you're taking a synthetic hormone. But then after you come out of it, as you say, and you find like with people, with bodybuilders, and even with gym goers now, because they're on that train of taking it, and when it comes to a point where they don't want to train no more, they've got to get off the train, do they have to carry on taking it in small samples, or do you have to keep?
No. I have to do, like, permanently do for the rest of my life, just some HRT.
Yeah.
I have to. Yeah. Because I mean, at my age anyway.
You don't produce it anymore anyway.
You don't produce. Well, no, I'm late 50s now, so they're not producing anymore. But at the same time, last year there's a young lad who sat in front of me, intelligent. I mean, I think it's in a profession that you think, wow. But anyway, he sits in front of me and he says to me, I said, look, come off, no. What the people are doing now is they stay on the course for a while. They claim that's what endocrinologists say. They stay on the course for a while on big, heavy course, and then they stop and then they taper down. They take only small amounts and back up again. They don't come off. And I said to him, dude, you need to give your system a break because I'm okay. I know by the time I get to 40, I'm going to need HRT. I'm like, 40, how can you think that's okay? He's accepted it. But then we live in a world where people say, it's his life, nothing to do with me. So that's what everybody's doing now. But what I'm saying is, you will regret some of decisions you're making now when you're older because you're under the influence. Yeah. But people don't realize that they are under the influence because that the process is insidious. Gradually, it just catches you before you know it, and you think, oh God. I see videos of myself now filmed in the 2007. I was watching one last night, and I can see the arrogance and the whatever in my face.
Is it part of the sport to be like that?
Absolutely.
You've got to be like that, haven't you? To be, I think, well, I wouldn't know, but to be at that level, as you were, you have to have that level of arrogance about you to be able to, because again, posing is another thing that, you've got to go out there and show everyone what you've got, and there isn't a side to it, isn't there?
I think in any sport, when you get to a certain level, the focus is different. Like, I remember somebody coming to talk to me when I was training my training partners and losing it. I'm like, with training. Nobody's allowed to talk to me or my training partners. That's how it was. But there has to be that kind of focus. But then, at the same time, the drug use don't help because the drugs affect your thought processes. 100%. They are hormones. Come on, you can't inject. Okay, so my wife's a nurse. Is what she said to me. So, when I'm on my period and I get a bit moody, don't you think it's the same as when you're on the drugs and you're doing that? It's hormones.
Yeah.
Hormones. Our bodies are governed by hormones. So if you're exogenously injecting all these hormones into your body, something's going to happen. Something has to give. Your blood test might be normal, but in here. And I've seen it so many times. What's sitting in front of me, you can clearly see they're clearly suffering. They're suffering from mental health issues. But I had to ignore that because of money. Yeah. Because they're paying me, and then put them.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Because it's a healthy, quote unquote, healthy industry.
It could be so good. Can you imagine? This could be.
And these people have. Some people have eaten to 6, and they're drug addicts as well.
So this is there's a drug came the bodybuilding in the 90s called Nubane. Everybody got hooked onto it, like IV. I know so many people who destroyed their lives injecting it into their system, Nubane. Now, somebody said, oh, hang on, you're all supposed to be health, whatever. How can you all sort of get hooked onto this? It's a synthetic opium. So it's an opioid. Okay. That's it. Nubane, you just Google it. Okay. So I'm thinking, so then I explained it. Once you can inject yourself, you've opened the door to everything. You can snort, you can, do you know what, I've done it before.
You've got to do that to yourself, injecting it. Yeah.
Once you can inject yourself, sit down, stick the needle inside you, you cross the line. And then anything goes. You know, people die from taking crazy stuff. Bodybuilders recently, they died, but nobody learns.
No.
Do you know what, remember Ayrton Senna, when he died, you see the stringent measures that they put in place in Formula 1, they put it.
It's a great point.
That's what they should be doing in bodybuilding. Somebody died recently, Dallas, whatever died, hang on, what happened here? Let's research, let's create a body to protect these people.
It's a great point. Is it because it's not approved by like a commission?
No, because the promoters know that they're dealing with drug addicts, and drug addicts are irresponsible. They're reckless. That's what I was. 100%. The promoters know that. Because I was going to promote it before. The idiots, they do anything. They take any drug. I was a prep coach. He said, somebody, right, take this. What's that? Well, do your research. This is what it is. Don't worry about it. I trust you. I'm like, no. I was told not to trust fucking big black men when I was a young boy. So, no, but you know what I mean? Just trust me and take you and you think, well, and you got people, there's a man who, he calls himself a prep coach, and he's so stupid, he can't even string a sentence together coherently. But he's sitting there advising people on what to do, what to eat, and what to take. And I'm thinking, it just puts you off. I'm thinking, well, hang on, we're in the same category. And people are listening to them and putting their health in danger, putting their lives in danger. And that's what it's become. And you find yourself all you can do is just sit back and try and save as many people as possible. I've got a few people here that have stopped from taking steroids, and they've listened. Because I said to you, you're not going to get anything out of it.
You can see that they're not going to make a living.
No, of course not.
People have these sort of illusions because they've seen their idols online and everything like that. And as you say, I mean, to get to a level where you're going to make a living out of bodybuilding or anything, you're a very small
percentage.
Very small percentage, yeah.
You know, you ask yourself how many bodybuilders are millionaires. Think about it, how many?
Very few.
So it just goes through you. It's a passion thing, but they've taken the passion out of it. Now it's become, I want it now. Okay, so this boy comes up and he says, I want to go off season, and look at him and thinking, you should be off season for like 10 years. But anyway, he comes in, off season, he's done a 3 months off season, he goes, all right, I want to cut. I'm like, you want to cut what? Do you know what I mean? What do you want to cut? There's fucking nothing to cut. But that's what it's like. You want it now, I want it now. Somebody said to me, change his diet, 2 weeks. I'm like, when am I going to start seeing results? I'm like, dude.
And that's like anything, if you're going to be at the top of your game in anything in life, it takes consistency, and it takes time and sacrifice and adversity. Nothing happens in 5 minutes. And it's a great point, and I just think it can be approached to any work goal in life, I think. And I think a lot of young people, everyone wants it now, and it's that mentality now. Everyone sees that, I want that in 5 minutes, and that leads to, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that, without any worry or
because they're listening to people they shouldn't listen to.
Yeah.
You think about it. So I wouldn't take steroid advice from anybody below a certain age, because
they've not been through it.
What they're telling you, they've read. Simple as that. They've read what, and I'm telling you that for years and years and years, I've watched people. I've done it since myself to get myself right to the top. I know the directives that we have to use. I know how many lives I've saved backstage, because the paramedics come in the back, back in the day, they come in, if somebody's throwing up and they call the ambulance, they come in straight away, they put drip on you, and I've had to stop. Don't do that. This is what you need. I've stood in a hospital where I've been told somebody I was, one of my former training partners, they called me and they're like, you know what, his parents called me, he's in hospital after a show, he's dehydrated, literally, they thought he was going to die. They called the chaplain, and I've just gone in the hospital, ran up there, and I'm not next of kin, so they're ignoring me, and I'm screaming on the ward, screaming, if you kill him, it's your fault, because I'm telling you, this is what you need to do. Within 5 minutes, he was saying that, was before all his organs have shut down, because they didn't know what to do. And I've so many people I've saved, about 5 people I've saved their lives backstage in the past, because if I hadn't been there, the paramedics would have just given them the wrong stuff. But
it's just incredible that you put yourself in that sort of life-threatening condition, because you're on that borderline, aren't you? At that point when you're on stage, I imagine, because you've got loads in your system, you're on a strict diet, you're making sure everything's right at that.
Your immune system is down.
Yeah, you've got no water in you.
I know. It's one of those things where people say it's a passion. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, it used to be a passion. There were not that many of us doing it. And the people who used to hide back in the day, thinking I'm not big enough. So you give yourself time to build muscle. So by the time you got there, at least you understand now. Now people are taking crazy stuff, and they think they look good when they don't. And not everybody who's competing should be trying to get to where they want to get to, because they don't have the genetics. So what happens? The drug taking increase, and then before you know it, something is given. But
I mean, yeah, it's incredible. It is incredible. But I'm going to pick up on you're making a documentary, aren't you, about, or something you're planning to?
Yes, I mean, I'm trying to get it not hijacked, because there's a chance somebody's trying to hijack. No, you got to talk to producers and stuff like that. It's a bit difficult to
hard to talk about, man.
No, it's not. Because people have got their own ideas, but I want it to be mine.
You don't completely understand. Do you know
what I mean? So I have to make it myself, finance it myself, because people come, I've got to start. No.
Yeah.
So what it is that I'm talking about mental health and drug addiction and bodybuilding addiction, because I've got so many examples of people who are suffering mental illness, but they're competing. It's almost like they think they've replaced their mental health, whatever, with bodybuilding, but it doesn't last, because they come off it, and one, they find they wasted so much time, so much money, and two, they're still actually worse than they were. And I'm seeing it all the time.
It's unbelievable.
So that's what my thing is about, and what happened to me.
Yeah. Because
you're taking all these hormones and your senses are heightened. Honestly, some of this stuff, I used to get panic attacks where literally I just couldn't. You think you can't breathe. Run out of the gym, hyperventilating. There's nothing wrong with you sitting here, but because of all the hormones are causing that, you don't realize that. I know people who've come to me, they're suffering from panic attacks, anxiety, depression, but they're still on the care. They're not telling the doctors about that.
No.
You know.
COVID-19 and obviously taken into the equation now, and I know you're a big, you outspoken about obviously the gyms opening now and the damage that's had to mental health with people being locked up, even my own mental health and not being able to train at the gym has affected me, especially during that lockdown. What's your overall take on it, Eddie? I mean, the people, I was having a word with you before, it seems like, obviously, we know we're under this sort of pathogen, which is COVID-19. It's serious. It's killing people of a certain age. That's fine. It seems like there's less focus on people that exercise. They go to gyms. It alleviates so much mental health because of the training. And obviously, at the same time, it's improving the immune system because they're training and keeping themselves healthy.
I mean, a lot of people, you know, some people believe in these conspiracy theories, the hoax, blah, blah, blah. My conspiracy, what I believe is that the food industry is so powerful that instead of the government saying, hang on a minute, even if you contract COVID, that's one of the first things we should have been told, even if you contract COVID, there's a certain way that you can look after your health, your eating habits, cut down on alcohol, cut down on sugars, cut down on certain things to build your immune system. That should be the first thing we should have been told. But they're not going to say that. No, of course not. They'll open McDonald's. I'm not saying that. I did have McDonald's when it was open because my son wanted one. Let's go on. But I remember the queue thinking, oh, you fucking people are stupid. We're talking about people who, you look at them, they're overweight, blah, blah. They're not advising people correctly. You see that the campaign they did with smoking. I remember back in the 80s where smoking, remember there was a poster with a superhero called Nicotine, and it says nicotine is a weed, you know what I mean? It's so powerful that it worked, that it cut down smoking and lung cancer drastically. Why can't we do that with food? We should do that, absolutely, because we know all this crappy food. Okay, let's put this sugar tax in. They were talking about this since the 80s. It's only recently, it's not effective.
It's not effective because no one has an actual education. They don't understand it. It's like
at school.
Yeah.
Should educate people about what to eat. I preach about single ingredient natural foods, and that's when I prep people. I refuse to incorporate things like Cocoa Pops and stuff like that because I say this as a joke. I wouldn't feed Cocoa Pops to my feces. When my kids were younger, I'm like, you know what? We stopped buying. My son, one day he said that, when I was young, I used to buy Rice Krispies and put it under my bed, and I'd have it once a week because it's just sugar. It's just sugar. I wouldn't, certain things shouldn't creep into bodybuilding because they are being acceptable, muffins and crap like that. I'm thinking, hang on. But the bodybuilding that was sold to me was eating healthy food and training. Now, without the steroids, imagine how good that can be, how good this industry can be.
Well, because weight training, it alleviates so much mental health because of the endorphins it releases, but at the same time, it's so good for your body. It is to condition yourself and to weight train. That's why all the top athletes in the world train with weights. Even fighters, they all train with weights.
Because they realise that, I think it took them a while, even footballers.
Yes,
they never did before.
No.
They realise, hang on, that's you get, one, you strengthen your muscles, and two, for the brain, it's important.
I know for me, I have to train, I have to go to the gym, I have to do something. And during lockdown, I got to this point where it was in the evenings, and subconsciously you don't realise what's going on. I didn't understand how this lockdown would affect me, and it got to the evening, I just this immense frustration, this immense sort of, it felt I had to escape because I hadn't had that training. Obviously socialising been taken out of the equation, but it has such a big impact on people.
You're not the only one. I stayed home for about 2 months because I just thought, hang on, my gym members are paying, a lot of them they're still paying the membership, they're not allowed to use the gym, and I felt guilty to say, you know what, let's just go to the gym and train and ignore them, and I couldn't do that. So I didn't train, and I couldn't do it. After a while, I couldn't do it. I had to sort of bring people in here and say, look, you know what, just do a bit. And I put a video out the other day. I don't know if you saw that. I put it on.
Yeah, tell me that story, because you met someone, didn't you? And he made contact with you, didn't he?
So I was at home. It was on Father's Day, and I got a call from somebody said, "Look, Ed, I didn't even know I had his number. So I worked with a lot of hundreds and hundreds of people, so sometimes I forget, and I don't really don't tend to delete a lot from my phone. Very big memory. So next minute, I got a call, I messaged him like, Ed, blah blah blah, can you talk? And then you think, oh, okay. I didn't. So I called him, and it turns out that he was suicidal, but it wasn't the fact that he felt suicidal, the fact that he was planning.
Yeah, he had it in his thought process.
That's what scared him, because whatever. But this time he was planning it. Some of it had to do with some relationship that I was broken about, or just finished, and I said, meet me at the gym. So literally just came in the gym, and I talked about it in a little clip. It's when he walked in, you know how a scared animal, how people sort of move about. Like, I'm looking at his face, I'm thinking, wow, I haven't seen anything like that before. But subsequently, almost every single person that came in after not training for a while had that look in their eyes. Because I was looking for it. It's petrified, like literally eyes.
Fear in your eyes.
And then he came in, and then I said, look, just do a workout. And he did a workout, and he sat down. You could see it was like something had been taken off his shoulders, just relaxed. And I said, look, come in and train every sort of 2 or 3 times a week. I'll sneak him in and get him to train. Why not? I didn't charge him anything. I wasn't doing it for money. To me, I thought he needed it.
Help.
And then I realized that so many of my members needed that. Yeah. Like, I know I've got people, I got lots of people, and because obviously I'm a mental health nurse, I tend to, so people talk to me about stuff like that quite a lot, confidential stuff, and I just keep it to me. It's not, of course, yeah. And then you got to protect them as well, because society still not whatever. Yeah. Do you know what? Last night when I was in bed, I was writing a post, and there's a young lady who tells me, you know what, my mom doesn't know that I suffer from these attacks. I'm like, why not? They started at university, and I haven't had the chance to tell my mom. And I said, listen, don't underestimate your parents, because I'm afraid my stepdad.
It's like a stigma, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm not in their family, so I don't know the relationship, but it was really sad because you could see that she needs to talk to her mum about it, and my mum doesn't know. I said, why? Because I can't tell her. Now, I said, look, being a parent is like a roller coaster ride. You know, at the beginning, the kids, I don't know if you got kids.
No, I haven't, no.
But at the beginning, you look at them, you adore them, they make you smile, and then they get to a certain age and you want to kill them, they want to kill you. But it doesn't change still. You still feel the same way. Yeah, yeah. My kids, my daughter's like, my youngest daughter's the most annoying person. I mean, she just deliberately does it. She's like me. She winds me up, she comes to that. But then, she's, like, you look at them, I still see the little girl. Yeah. So any problems, I would want her to come to me. So I said to this lady, look, talk to your mum. Now, I don't know if this is the right thing or not. Maybe the relationship with their mum is not right, but do you know what I mean? People don't want to talk about it. So we develop sort of coping mechanisms. And so one of it is training, going to the gym. In my gym, I know everybody's name. I know every single person that walks through the door. I make it a point. It's not a lifestyle gym. You come in, but it's the lifestyle gyms that make it bad for us, because when Boris is looking at gyms, they're looking at all these teenagers walking around sweating and jumping about, not having a clue, not giving a shit about the other people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's why we get tarnished the same brush. They should say, you know what? Let's open independent gyms and shut these lifestyle gyms. Most of them are not up for making money anyway.
No, it's a very good point. Most of them gyms that are all around the country, you walk in there 24 hours. They're not. Whereas your old style proper bodybuilding gym, like it is here, like the gym you've got here, and like the gym I train at in Cheshunt's Monster Gym as well. And you walk in there, everyone says hello. You've got your friends there, and it is a very sort of close knit sort of. Because you're always there, and you've got your friends that some of you don't even know their name. It's weird, but you always talk to them.
Do you know, there's that song, that program Cheers? Yeah. And it says, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Yeah. That's what it's like when you come in here. I see some people come in they come in and, okay, I made them, I do a lot of checking, people come in and talk to me. But I've made it so that my window is, you can see it, and I can see it through it, orange. And sometimes you're busy having an important conversation, someone you come inside doing crazy stuff, and it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny, the banter is just incredible here. One, because we've created it, and two, we don't have too many athletes walking around with full of drugs and chips on their shoulders like we did before, because I did. You know, what happens is when you got a group, as soon as people start competing, and as soon as one person wins the show, it's almost like they get elevated by the group into whatever, and then it gets into their heads. You need the right person not to get arrogant about it.
Yeah.
One girl got so arrogant, she wouldn't even talk to anybody. She only talked to the clients who had, if you had a certain amount of money, that's it. So
it's no good being in life being like that. Doesn't matter what you're doing, it's just not gonna work out for you if you're like that.
No.
But it's great, and to have that sort of environment that you've got here, very close knit type family gym, and you're able to help people. Obviously, you know, you've been through the mileage, your mental health.
It's more rewarding.
It's more rewarding.
I think my age has got something to do with it as well. I like actually seeing tangible that man who now he talks to me, he laughs about what happens during lockdown. That makes me smile, because that's what it's about. Helping people. The gym can be so good at helping people if we take away the meatheads and the drugs and the craziness, you know.
Yeah, Eddie. Well, I mean, we've done an hour. It's incredible.
No.
And, honestly, it's so good speaking to you and having you on and just like touching on some of the industry. I really appreciate it, and I'd actually love to get you on in the future as well.
Of course, it'd be good.
But where can people find you, Eddie? Your gym?
We're in Hemel Hempstead.
Eddie's Olympian Gym.
Yes. Do you know what? Somebody had to ask me, how did you come up with that name? It's one of my clients who actually came up and says, why don't you call it that? I thought, why not? Yeah. Because it's, and then I did make my way to Olympia. I was an Olympiad, so why not?
You competed on the Olympia.
Absolutely.
And that's millions and millions and millions of people can say that, and then, you know, it's a special thing.
And it was the old, was before pro cards. This one, only one pro card is given a year. That was fun.
Do you still follow modern bodybuilding now?
I try to, but it bores me because I don't. You look at some of the the national things. They're in a decent standard, but the same people are so arrogant. And you think, well, you don't have the muscle to be arrogant, but because they're big on social media, it makes them think that they're something that they're not. And I just
it's fake, isn't it? Everything's
so
fake.
Yeah.
It is. Eddie, thanks so much, mate.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers. Take care.